Good afternoon. It is currently 1 p.m. Thursday, June 2nd, and it is a mostly cloudy 79 degrees here in Tupelo, Mississippi. I just left Columbus, Mississippi with a load of brick, and man, I got drenched securing that load. It was a downpour and I was just drenched. When it's pretty warm out and raining, I don't worry about rain gear. I never have. I've worked outside pretty much all my life, and never really worried about rain gear unless it was cold. Other than that, I just work when I'm wet. And since I was going to be doing a lot of driving, I decided I should probably change clothes as well. So I did. So I have about 45,000 pounds of brick on my flatbed, and just to give myself an idea of what my weights are, I have gauges on my, I have pressure gauges on my drive axles and on my trailer axles. And I know I'm maxed out on my drive axles when my pressure gauge is around 65 pounds. I was just a hair under that. So I went to weigh after I strapped down, and just to make sure I was within my legal limits, and my steer axle weighs 11,080 pounds. The maximum on that is 12,000. My drive axle is 33,680 pounds, and the maximum on that is 34,000. So I'm pretty dang close, 320 pounds. And just kind of give you an idea about load distribution and weight distribution. My load pretty much sits in the middle of my trailer. Like, I could fit more cubes of brick on the front and on the back by area wise, but not weight wise. So when you see a flatbed running down the road with a stack of brick or a stack of block right in the middle of the bed, then that's what we're doing, is we're making sure that weight is distributed properly. Because if that brick was 6 inches, maybe a foot more forward, then that would probably put my drive axle overweight. It'd be over the 34,000 pounds, and what I would have to do is have the loader move the front 2 cubes to the back. And of course my trailer axle, it only weighs 31,600. With a flatbed, I can weigh 40,000 on my trailer axles, or 20,000 a piece, because I have spread axles. But normally, you gotta weigh, you can't weigh any more than 12,000, 34,000, and 34,000 on your steer axles, your drive axles, and your trailer axles, with a combined gross weight of 80,000. I can, as a flatbed, go up to 85.5, but then I got to stay off of interstates and got to stay out of Texas, because Texas, from what I understand, is an 80,000 pound weight limit state all over. But like interstates have a maximum weight of 80,000 pounds, but state highways have a maximum weight of 85.5. But I always will call my max weight at 80,000 pounds, just because I really don't want to try and take state highways all the way from Mississippi to Waterloo, Illinois, which is where I'm going. It's just right outside of St. Louis, Missouri. I could probably do it, but to be honest with you, I rely on the interstate system too much. Now, if you want to talk about, from around where I'm from, then yeah, I could definitely use state highways in my home state and in the surrounding states. But when I'm out here and got to travel this far, yeah, I really rely on the interstate system. Something else I really rely on is my GPS. So I'll talk a little bit about trucking GPS. I've seen a lot of videos on bonehead truckers about people trusting their GPS and basically doing what their GPS tells them to do. I will tell you that I am highly reliant on my GPS to get around the country. And my GPS will give me the shortest and direct route. However, I have the final say on whether or not I make a turn or the route that I take, not my GPS. Just because my GPS says I can go that way doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea. And I will give you an example. I had to take a detour one time down in Oklahoma. And I'm not sure if I missed the detour exit or not, but in any case, I found myself in an area that I was really unfamiliar with. I knew that the road that I was on, my truck was okay, but my GPS kept wanting me to make turns, both left and right, into neighborhoods, and I knew that there is no way that I'd turn this truck into any of those neighborhoods. And I've taken this truck through neighborhoods, and it's been tight. I had to stop one time where that's pretty much how you get to it, was going through a neighborhood. In fact, I got a couple of stops that I've delivered to regularly that's the way that we got to go. I even have one stop that you have to drive about 50 yards or so past a no truck sign. And also delivering to some utility work drop areas for steel poles, because I deliver a lot of steel utility poles. Sometimes I got to drive in a no truck zone for that as well, but since there's utility work, I guess I'm pretty much can disregard all that because I have to get down that road to drop the utility poles. But anyway, so I knew that when I was in this detour area, and I'll admit I had no idea where I was at. I mean, I knew where I was at, but like I had to stop, turn on my flashers because the road was not busy at all, and it was like a 35 mile an hour road. And I turned on my flashers and used my GPS. I just zoomed out to get a better bird's eye view, and I could tell that I was fine on the road where I'm at, and that road would intersect with the highway I was going to need. So I just continued on, even though my GPS wanted me to make turns in the neighborhoods. And I knew that I was right. So I get almost to the highway, and I come to a major intersection, and there was a no truck sign for through traffic, but I could turn right or left. And it was a major intersection, and I knew that major intersection was coming up as well, so I knew there was an out if I had to, because I could see the major intersection on my map. And so I made my right turn. Now, for whatever reason, my trucker GPS thought that I was in the no truck area when in fact I was not. There was plenty of semi-traffic, and also it was plenty of room to run trucks through, so I knew I was okay. And then I drove through the highway that I needed, and then suddenly I knew exactly where I needed to go, and there I was. But my whole point of this story is, even if you're really relying on GPS like I am, and that's okay, but you still got to make the final decision on whether or not to make that turn, because you're the one that's going to be responsible for putting ruts in people's yards or businesses' yards or whatever. You're the one that's going to be responsible for dragging over that stop sign or the light pole. And you really got to, exaggerate your swings. And if you got to jump over into the all the way into the left lane to make your right turn, then do it. just be sure that you communicate well enough with the traffic around you that they know that that's what you're doing. Take up the whole damn road if you can and it's safe. If you have to make your turn. But bottom line is, use your GPS, but don't trust in it 100%. So that's my trucking story of the day, and my load. Talked about my load. I think today I want to tell you guys a story about a home invasion that that I worked. So basically what happened was a 16-year-old was held at gunpoint in his house while the intruders were waiting for his dad to come home. His dad was a business owner and a suspected narcotics dealer. So they were after his drugs and or money. And Dad was away at the casino, and son was home in bed when he got woke up in bed by people pointing guns at him, and they made him come out and disarm the alarm. Well, Dad got an alert on his phone that his alarm went off, and it was, I believe, a front door reading, and he hauled ass home because he knew that was not good. He comes flying up in his driveway and busts in his house, just barging in his own house, and starts immediately fighting one of the suspects. I believe there were two in the house and maybe a third one in the getaway vehicle, maybe. But anyway, he starts fighting with one of the suspects over a rifle. I believe it was an SKS or an AK-47 rifle. Maybe it could have been an AR-15, but my memory kind of, maybe it was an SKS or AK-47. But in any case, it was some kind of a rifle. During that process, the dad was shot in the butt, and he was able to gain control of the rifle, and the two suspects fled the house. Dad sought medical treatment at the hospital, and this is how I got involved. Dad flat out told me that the only reason he was cooperating was because they held his son at gunpoint. And that's the kind of... that's what people tell me all the time. The people all the time will get shot, and they will say they won't cooperate. And I kid you not, when I say I responded to probably, on average, one every other month. I would respond to one shooting about every other month at the hospital where they would tell me that they didn't want to cooperate with the investigation. So I would gather just enough information to conduct a non-criminal or to fill out a non-criminal incident report and be done with it, just basically to kind of justify my closing of the case. And just on a side note, there's actually a lot of people nowadays that won't even seek out proper medical treatment. I heard a rumor in our city that there was either a doctor from the military, like he was retired or had been in the military, or some kind of medic in the military that had gotten out of the military that was treating people with gunshot wounds. And they would also go to friends and family members who were nurses or in nursing school and have them treat them for their gunshot wounds. It's very common, so people wouldn't even be going to the hospital for it. So anyway, so he let me know pretty much the only reason he's cooperating is because his son was held at gunpoint. And I told him that I needed to go into his house to process it as a crime scene, and he objected to that. I told him that I can conduct the investigation, but I definitely was going to need the rifle, and I would not be able to, if I wasn't able to collect evidence, then the likelihood of somebody being charged would be very slim. Not impossible, but improbable. So I told him that, I could limit my crime scene processing to his son's bedroom and the living room, because that is the only places that they went. I want to say maybe it was the kitchen as well, because that was the only places that anybody went during the whole ordeal. I told him that I did not need to go in his bedroom. I told him that I didn't need to go in the spare bedroom or in the bathroom or in the basement. He agreed with this and let me have my crime scene officers go in and process the house. So in the house would have been the rifle, a shell casing, and also it was either a soda bottle or a juice bottle. I don't remember which, but one of the suspects had drank from a soda bottle or a juice bottle. And that's going to hold a ton of evidence. It's going to possibly have fingerprints, but mainly it's going to have some DNA. I have my officers go in, my crime scene officers go in and collect whatever evidence that I need. And I do a once-over of the crime scene to make sure everything's done. And then I start my investigation. Well, there was not a whole lot of information. It was just kind of a generic description of a suspect. Nothing special about the suspects. They're just generic. So, fast forward about a week or two, I get a call from the dad that says that he heard on the street that the suspect was named by his street name. I don't recall what that street name was, but I ended up identifying the suspect, or the owner of that street name, and started my investigation on that end. So I put together a photo lineup for the son. And the way we do photo lineups is we basically take 6 pictures of people, 6 booking photos from our county jail of people that have similar attributes as the suspect. And we have a computer program that actually helps us do this. So in this case, my suspect was a black male. And let's just say my suspect is a black male that is 30 years old, 6 feet tall, and 160 pounds. I will put my search parameters as a black male between 5 foot 10 inches and 6 foot 2 inches, between 150 to 170 pounds, and if he's 30 years old, I would probably do 27 to maybe 32 or 33. Well, then it will spit out all the people that's been booked in the jail with a booking photo, and then that has a photo in our database. It would spit out all those people with those parameters. And I typically like to try and get a pool of about 75 to 125 photos to choose from. I think that's a pretty good swath of photos to choose from. And that's what I typically will go for. If I only get, and I have gotten like 20 photos, what I will do is I will broaden my search parameters a little bit by like an inch on the height, 5 or 10 pounds on the weight, and a year or 2 on the age. And then I will get more photos that way. So anyway, I find my suspect's photo, and I drag him off onto the other computer screen so I can have him sitting there as a reference, so I can find people with similar attributes. Because obviously, if my suspect is somebody with short hair, I can't put people with long hair, because if I have my suspect who has short hair, but then the other 5 people have long hair, then that would be a bad photo lineup, and the identification would probably get thrown out in court. So I pick all my filler photos, and I pull the victim in, the 16-year-old in, and have him look at all the photos. He doesn't make an identification, but he gets to one photo, and tells me if it's not this guy, it's somebody that looks just like him. Well, that was one of my filler photos, and people do that really pretty often, and I mean it can be dangerous, but it's really up to the cop to kind of decide where the investigation goes. It's dangerous in a sense that we tell them in our instructions that the suspect who committed their crime may or may not be in the photo lineup, and basically, it's okay to not be able to identify somebody. However, what a lot of people will do is if they don't recognize the suspect's photo, then they will then kind of shop for the best picture out of the 6, and they will basically pick somebody who looks like the suspect. That is actually a filler photo, and that actually happens, like I said, quite often. So that's what this guy did, was he passed up on the suspect's photo and identified one of my filler photos as the suspect. Or well, that's when he made the comment that if it wasn't this guy, it's somebody that looks just like him. So I then put my investigation to the side, and everything had been sent to the KBI to the laboratory. Sorry, to the DNA laboratory for DNA analysis. And DNA analysis back then was taken anywhere from like 6 months to 9 months, in some cases up to a year to get back. So fast forward 6, 8, 9 months, there's a DNA hit that comes back that says that the DNA belongs to this guy. Well, this guy, let's call him Tony, ends up being the same photograph in the lineup, the filler photograph that he identified as the suspect. So I kind of hit the trifecta of evidence, because the rifle was DNA'd, and the fountain drinks, or the soda bottle was DNA'd, and both those DNA came from the same contributor, which happened to be the guy that I randomly picked out of probably 100 people as a filler photo. And because of that, we had, oh my gosh, at least 2, and it might have even been 3 or 4 hearings based off of my lineup. I mean, it was just such a random freak encounter that I pulled this guy as a filler photo, and I had to convince the defense attorney and the judge that that's all I did. He was just a random filler photo. I mean, basically I hit the lottery when I put his photo in, and I identified who my suspect by word of mouth was, and there really was nothing to do there, because it was literally I heard on the streets that it was Big G that did this robbery, and that was it. There was no other corroborating evidence. Now, had the victim picked out Big G, then I would have, and Big G was not his street name, I just don't remember it. But anyway, had he picked him out, then I would have tried to work my investigation around that. But since he didn't, my investigation went to this guy, and it's kind of a take what you can get type situation, where I had really good evidence against one person. He would never give up the other people involved, and he didn't, and that guy ended up going to prison. And it just so happens he was actually charged with another crime that was related to a homicide. And this homicide is a super sad homicide. My partner worked it. I probably won't talk about it. It's just super sad deal. It's one of those cases that my partner will carry with him for the rest of his life. We all have some of those cases that that really kind of affected us on a personal level, and that one did him. He actually has some kind of correspondence with the victim's family. I think maybe on her birthday every year they send him a birthday card, or on his birthday somehow. Maybe it's the anniversary of the death. I think that's what it is. I think it's the anniversary of the murder. Is they send him some kind of a thank you card for everything that he did in that case. And I also believe he's actually friends with him on social media. But anyway, so yeah, that's the case. If any of y'all got any detective family or friends, like I said, that's pretty much like me hitting the lottery, that I just randomly picked this guy out, and he was never a subject of the investigation until I had all that other evidence come in that directed me otherwise. So anyway, so that's my case. If you guys like the video, like it. If you don't, hit a dislike. I don't care. If you want to send me some comments, I'll talk to almost anything. I'll talk almost about anything with just about anybody. And definitely open for discussion. And I'm also open to answer some questions. So don't hesitate, and let's get a conversation started if you guys want. Until next time, I am currently driving through Booneville, Mississippi, and I will talk at you guys later.